Hello again, welcome to another edition of Prep Rally. I'm Jeff Bersch from the Pueblo Chieftain. I'm joined by my fellow sports writer, Jeff Letofsky. We're here to talk about prep action, prep football for me. Jeff's going to discuss some softball and golf action. Those seasons are starting to wind down. I'll start with football. As I wrote in a column that will come out tomorrow, last week was one of the crazier weeks I've ever seen in prep football. I've worked at 7 papers and covered football in 6 states. I can't remember a weekend quite like that. Can you?
No, not really. Now when you have so many close games and overtime games and exciting games and thrillers and really sort of some upsets along the way.
Yeah, there were 4 games in Pueblo last week. 3 of them went to overtime. One of those was a double overtime game, and the one that didn't go to an overtime ended with kind of a Hail Mary out of Pueblo County. So, yeah, definitely a crazy week of high school football. I was out at East last Thursday, a rematch of the state championship game from last year, Discovery Canyon and East, and that one went overtime with Discovery Canyon coming out after East missed a field goal, an extra point after it scored its first touchdown. Then I was out at the Bell game, my first Bell game experience on Friday night, which was a lot of fun and another good game. Centennial coming out on top in overtime. Central fumbled at the goal line, going in to try to score. They had come back from being down 8-0. Both teams came in 0-2, but I felt like that game definitely lived up to the hype and the rivalry that it's become. Next week, we have a big Canyon game in town, East and South. Both those teams are coming off tough losses. I talked about East a little bit, but South went over to Pueblo West, 2 ranked teams over there. 55-54 in a wild, crazy game that went 2 overtimes. There were some missed extra points there that ended up costing South as well. I'm turning it over to Jeff here and let him talk a little bit about what's going on in the softball and golf worlds.
Yeah, as the season is about the halfway point with most of the prep sports, golf season's about ready to end. We're only a week and a half or so away from the state tournament, and this last week on Monday and Tuesday were the regionals in both 4A and 3A. And after everything panned out, we have eight players from Pueblo who had advanced to the state tournament, and 9 regional Southern Colorado players who are going to the 3A state tournament. So it's going to be interesting. Some of these teams, Pueblo County had dominated around Southern Colorado the entire season and won 9 of their 9 events that they got into as a team. But they were forced to go up to Colorado Springs for their regional and ran into the likes of Valor Christian and Mullen. So they didn't qualify a team. In fact, this is one of the few times I can remember, and I've covered prep boys golf for close to 25 years. And I don't know if I remember a Pueblo team not going to state. So this is the first time we're not going to have a Pueblo team. We are very, very well represented here. We do have 8 kids from Pueblo going, and the only school that's not represented is Central. So we have 2 from Pueblo West, 2 from Centennial, we have 1 from South, 1 from East, and 2 from Pueblo County, who is obviously the South Central League champion. And at the 3A level, they're going up to Denver as well. So we have the 4A is going to be in Littleton, the 3A in Lafayette. So it'll be interesting. That'll be October 2nd and 3rd. So that'll be upcoming in the next 10 days or so for state golf. The other sport I wanted to mention was softball, the girls softball, which has been traditionally strong in Pueblo. It's strong again this year. We really have 4 very good teams. We have 2 teams that are ranked and 2 teams that are getting votes in the polls. And we had a showdown between the top 2 teams in the league just yesterday, between Pueblo West and South, and West comes out on top 4-0. So they take the lead in the league, and obviously those 2 teams have to meet again coming up. Central's enjoying a pretty good season. They've lost 1 game so far in league play, but all these teams are teams to watch out for. And the regionals in softball are only 2 weeks away. So prep sports is not only about the midway point, but it's also winding down in some of the sports, including golf and softball. So stay tuned, and we'll be back with you next week for another edition of Prep.